First story, the saltwater veil. I never believed in ghosts. Not until I moved into the old beach house on Driftwood Shore. It was late September, the air still clinging to the last whispers of summer. I had just finalized my divorce, emptied my savings, and driven south along the California coast until I found the sea. The house was cheap, suspiciously cheap. The kind of cheap you justify with phrases like fixer-upper or hidden gem. From the outside, it looked like a forgotten postcard. Sun-bleached wood, sand-covered porch, wind-battered shutters. The ocean breathed a constant sigh just beyond the dunes. I signed the papers without asking too many questions. The first night, I slept like a corpse. The second, I woke up choking on salt water. I gasped and sat upright, coughing hard. My throat burned. My lips tasted like the sea. But the windows were closed. No tide had come in. No explanation. I told myself it was just a dream. Stress, grief, trauma, anything. But it kept happening. Every night, I'd wake up closer to drowning. The sheets were damp, my skin clammy. I swore I heard waves crashing inside the house. And then came the smell. Brine, rot, seaweed, like something had died deep in the sand beneath my feet. I started avoiding sleep. Stayed up drinking, watching late-night cable, scrolling until my eyes burned. But the house didn't like that. Lights would flicker. Static would scream from the TV. I'd hear footsteps in the attic, wet ones. Then the voices began. They whispered through the vents, hissed from the drains, cried behind the closet door. He never left. The tide took her. Open the cellar. I didn't have a cellar, or at least I thought I didn't. But when I pulled back an old rug in the living room, there it was, a trapdoor, sealed with rusted chains. I should have called someone. Left. Burned the place down. But something pulled me to that door. I couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, I cut the chains. The stairs were slick. Salt dripped from the ceiling. The air stank of algae and death. At the bottom, the walls weren't wood or stone, but something else. Bone white, ribbed, organic. The floor was covered in ankle-deep seawater. And in the middle of it stood a girl. She was no older than 10. Her hair floated around her like seagrass. Her skin was bloated, bluish. Her eyes were gone. She didn't speak. She screamed. Water exploded upward, slamming me into the stairs. I scrambled, slipping, my lungs burning. When I broke the surface, she was gone, but I wasn't alone. Hands reached from the water, dozens, pale, wrinkled, dead. They dragged me under. I don't remember how I got out. I woke up on the porch, coughing brine, my clothes soaked. The trapdoor was gone. Not locked, gone, just floorboards. I tried leaving, packed up, drove away. Made it 30 miles before the road washed out. The sign read, "Welcome to Driftwood Shore." I was back. The house was waiting, and it was hungry. The ocean no longer sighs. It calls, it laughs, it breathes through the walls. I haven't slept in days, but I can still hear her. You opened it. Last night, the girl stood at the foot of my bed. She was smiling. Tonight, I know I won't wake up. I can already taste the salt. Second story, the house that whispers in waves. I never wanted to come back to Cape Hollow. The last time I was there, I was only 10. My parents died in a car accident on the way back from the beach, and I was sent to live with my aunt in Colorado. I tried to forget everything about that cursed town, the salty air, the endless gull cries, the way the wind seemed to speak through the dunes. But when my uncle passed and left me the old family house, I had no choice. It was supposed to be a simple trip. Fly in, sign papers, find a real estate agent, and leave. But as soon as I stepped out of the rental car and onto the sand-streaked porch of that beach house, something shifted. The sun dipped lower than it should have. The ocean darkened, just slightly, and I swear I heard a voice in the waves. Go back. I shook it off, just memories. The mind plays tricks, especially in places soaked in trauma. The house itself hadn't aged well. Peeling paint, swollen wood, seaweed tangled around the porch rail like old ribbon. I pushed open the creaky door and stepped into stale air, thick with salt and silence. Inside was exactly how I remembered it. Even the seashell lamp I broke when I was 6 still stood, glued back together. I stayed the night because I was too tired to drive. That was the first mistake. The dreams started immediately, not vague, blurry nightmares. No, they were crisp, real. I saw the beach outside, but the sky was wrong, tinted red like rusted blood. A woman stood in the surf, back turned to me, her dress floating unnaturally around her ankles. I called out to her. She didn't move. Then she turned. Her face was gone, just smooth skin where eyes and a mouth should have been. Yet I heard her speak, directly into my skull. Stay. I jolted awake, cold sweat, heart pounding. I told myself I was jet-lagged, but when I got up and looked outside, the same woman was standing on the shore. I ran, back inside, locked every door, closed every blind. But the whispering didn't stop. It came through the vents, from the drains, even from beneath the floorboards. Sometimes in voices I recognized, my mother, my father, even my own. Sometimes in voices I didn't. You're home now. The second night, I found footprints in the sand inside the house. I hadn't opened the door. The third night, I found a handprint on the bathroom mirror. It was wet. The sink was dry. I decided to leave, packed everything, booked the first flight out, but the car wouldn't start. The engine had filled with seawater. I called for a tow truck, but the line was dead. My phone had no signal. I walked half a mile into town, or tried to. The road looped back. Every turn led me back to the house. Every sign said one thing: welcome to Cape Hollow, population U. That night, the dreams got worse. I wasn't in the house anymore. I was underwater. The woman was back, floating beside me, her skin bloated and pale. Her mouth opened, and something crawled out, a long, black eel with human teeth. It slithered into my mouth. I woke up choking on seawater. The bed was soaked. My lungs burned. There was salt in my throat, in my eyes, in my blood. I screamed. For hours, no one came, because there was no one left. Cape Hollow had been abandoned for 20 years. I found the newspaper in the attic. A hurricane wiped out the town. Everyone died, including my parents. But I remembered their funeral. I remembered Colorado, didn't I? The whispers don't stop now. They come even in the day. The woman comes closer every night. Tonight, I will leave, one way or another. The ocean is calling, and I think I'm ready to answer. Third story, the saltwater house whispers my name. It began on a Thursday, late August, the kind of sticky, airless evening when the sea smells like something ancient trying to breathe again. My name is Matthew Caldwell, and I just inherited a beach house from an uncle I barely knew. It stood just outside a forgotten stretch of coast in Carolina, near a ghost town called Lanesport. The legal papers said he passed quietly in his sleep. The neighbors, what few remained, claimed otherwise, said they heard screams. But none of them called for help. None of them came close. The first time I saw the house, I knew something was wrong. It sat on the shoreline like a stranded whale, bloated and splintered. Salt had turned the once white walls into a stained gray, windows boarded, wind chimes twisted with rust. It wasn't welcoming, but it was mine. I didn't believe in ghosts, and the market was hot. I planned to stay a week. Flip it, sell it, easy money. I unlocked the door and was met with the stench of brine and mildew. The air inside felt wet, thick, like walking through syrup. Every floorboard creaked like it hadn't been stepped on in years. As I moved through the living room, I noticed family photos on the wall, none of them mine. In each one, a man who looked almost like me but older, eyes like mine, smile like mine. But the woman beside him, always blurred, always distorted, like the photo resisted her presence. That first night, I didn't sleep. The wind howled, but it wasn't the wind that kept me awake. It was the soft thumping like footsteps above me, pacing. I told myself it was just an old house. Wood settles, pipes groan, but the footsteps stopped the moment I acknowledged them, like they knew I was listening. On the second day, I found the basement door, locked. The key didn't match, and I wasn't about to force it. Instead, I explored the beach. Man, that's when I met her. A woman, watching the sea. She wore a white dress and a necklace made of sea glass. She didn't speak, just stared at the water. When I asked if she lived nearby, she smiled but didn't answer. That night, I dreamed of drowning. By the fourth day, the house had begun to change. I'd find water on the floor, spreading from no source. Mirrors fogged without heat. Doors opened on their own. The living room smelled like seawater, even though all the windows were shut. The girl appeared again, standing just outside the back porch. She never knocked, just stood, watching. I called a locksmith. He came. He saw the basement door and laughed nervously. Houses like this, he said, they keep secrets. Sometimes it's better not to open them. But I insisted. He picked the lock. The door opened with a groan like something sighing in relief. Darkness waited at the bottom of the stairs, cold and wet. The walls were lined with newspaper clippings, all sealed under cracked glass. Headlines like, "Local family lost at sea, bodies never recovered," and "Woman vanishes from coastal home." One clipping caught my eye. Matthew Caldwell, presumed dead after disappearance in 1994. I was born in 1995. The walls began to drip. The lights flickered. Then I heard it. The unmistakable sound of footsteps behind me. I turned. No one. I ran up the stairs. Slammed the door. Locked it. But the key was no longer in the lock. That night, I checked the photos again. The man in them? He was gone. Only the woman remained. Her face no longer blurred. She looked exactly like the girl on the beach. Eyes deep as tide pools. Mouth slightly open, as if whispering. The next morning, I packed. I wanted out, but the road was gone. Where there once was a gravel path leading to the town, there was only sand, and the ocean, closer than before. Almost licking the porch steps. My phone had no signal. My car wouldn't start. I wasn't just trapped, I was erased. By nightfall, the girl came inside. She didn't use the door. She stood at the foot of my bed, her dress dripping, her eyes wide. "You came back," she said. I didn't answer. She touched my hand. It was ice. The next morning, I looked in the mirror. It wasn't me, it was him. Same eyes, same smile. I tried to scream, but all that came out was salt water. Fourth story? Beneath sand. They say you can still hear them, whispers rising from beneath the dunes. I didn't believe it either. Not until I stayed there. Not until I bled for it. I rented the house in late August, hoping to escape the weight of life in Austin after my wife left me. The listing called it Oceanfront Solitude, perfect for artists and loners. That should have been my first warning. The house sat alone, like a forgotten thought, just off a road that curled around a dead cliff in Northern California near a town named Moorhaven. Locals didn't speak much of the property, just said, "Storm took the last guy." That was a lie. I know that now. The place looked normal from the outside, a small wooden beach house with chipped blue shutters, an overgrown path leading from the dunes. But the moment I stepped inside, the silence hit me. Not peaceful silence, heavy, watchful. The first night, I barely slept. The wind wouldn't stop. It howled like a woman mourning, and it never once came from the same direction. I thought maybe I was just unsettled. First nights in strange places always feel off, right? But by the second night, I heard something that wasn't the wind. I was writing at the kitchen table when I heard it, faint tapping under the floorboards, like fingers drumming. Then a voice, barely a breath, just behind my left ear. "Dig." I turned. Nothing there. The house had no basement, but the floorboards in the living room were loose. I pried one up and saw sand, just sand. I told myself it was the ocean playing tricks on my brain. I even laughed. That laughter died fast, because the next morning there were footprints, bare, child-sized, leading from the edge of the dunes to my front door. I stayed. I don't know why. Maybe pride. Maybe the story I thought I could get out of it. Maybe something had already begun working on me. Night 3, I dreamed of a girl. Her eyes were gone, just dark holes like someone had scooped them out. She stood in the dunes and pointed to the house. Behind her, the sand pulsed like a heartbeat. I woke up sweating, scratching my arm. When I looked down, the word beneath was scratched into my skin. By night 4, I stopped sleeping altogether. The whispers grew louder, crawling up from under the house. I heard names I didn't know. Screams, pleas, laughter. Not human laughter, but shrill and distant, like it came from inside the earth. I packed my bags. I was ready to leave. But when I opened the door, all I saw was sand. Miles and miles of it. The road was gone. The town was gone. I was trapped. I tried to call for help, but my phone didn't work. No signal. No battery. I hadn't even touched it. Night 5, I broke. I started digging under the house. Hands raw, nails gone. I needed to know. I found bones. Dozens of them. Small. Children. Some were twisted like they'd been buried alive, still trying to escape. That's when the whisper came again, louder than ever. "She's still hungry." The house shook. The windows shattered inward, sand poured in from the walls. I tried to run, but the floor caved in beneath me. I fell into darkness, into her. I don't know how long I was gone. Maybe hours, maybe years. I woke up on the beach, half buried in the sand. The house behind me looking pristine, untouched, like none of it had happened. But my arms were covered in names, carved into my flesh. I left, hitchhiked to Los Angeles, moved into a shelter. I tried to warn people. No one listened. No one ever does. Now I watch the rental site. Every few weeks, the house goes back up. Different photos, same house, always under a new name. Always the same description. Oceanfront solitude, perfect for artists and loners. I see who books it. I track them. I try to stop them. But I'm always too late, because she feeds. And she never goes hungry. Fifth story, the house that swallowed the sea. My name is Jason Whitmore. I grew up in a quiet neighborhood in Richmond, Virginia. But 2 years ago, everything in my life changed because of a decision I made during one long, forgettable summer. It all started with a Craigslist ad, a beach house rental in Montauk, New York, for half the normal price. Charming, isolated, oceanfront, available immediately. I didn't hesitate. I was 29, single, and tired of my job in software development. I thought maybe time alone by the sea could reset my head. Help me think clearly. Start over. I should have known the price was too good to be true. The place stood at the very edge of the beach, so close to the water it seemed to rise out of the ocean itself. 2 stories, weather-beaten white siding, a wraparound porch held up by peeling columns. The air smelled like salt, rotting wood, and something sour. The key had been mailed to me in a plain envelope. No paperwork, no contract. That should have been my second warning. The first night, I couldn't sleep. Something moved in the walls. At first, I thought it was raccoons or seagulls. But then came the footsteps, slow, dragging, like bare feet soaked in seawater. I stayed still in bed, listening. Then I heard the door to the guest bedroom creak open. I hadn't opened that room. I hadn't even touched the knob. I told myself it was the wind. But the door was on the opposite side of the house. I closed my eyes and waited for morning. By day, everything felt normal again. Sunlight poured through the windows. The ocean looked beautiful, calming. I convinced myself I'd imagined it all. Stress, maybe. The second night, I woke to the sound of someone gargling, not coughing, not choking. Gargling, as if water was trapped in someone's lungs and they were still trying to breathe. It echoed through the floorboards. I followed the sound down the hall, past the guest bedroom door, which was now open again. The light inside flickered, even though the bulb was brand new. Inside the room, nothing. But I saw the carpet was wet, soaking. I pressed my hand into it. Warm. I ran out of the room and locked the door. The third day, I walked into town, asked some locals about the house. A woman at the diner dropped her coffee when I mentioned the address. That place was supposed to be condemned. That house belonged to the Whitakers. Whole family disappeared one night during a storm. Cops never found the bodies, just a bathtub full of seawater upstairs and a child's footprint on the ceiling. I asked her how long ago that was. She stared at me like I'd grown another head. 27 years ago, to the day. I checked my phone. June 12th. That night, I planned to pack and leave, but the house wouldn't let me. The door was gone. Where it once stood was a blank wall. I ran to the back door, same thing. Windows bricked up from the inside. Panicked, I grabbed my phone to call for help. The screen flickered and filled with static. Then a voice whispered through the speaker, "Jason, stay." I dropped the phone, ran upstairs, tried to break the glass in the bathroom window, but when I swung the lamp into it, my reflection smiled at me. Even though I wasn't smiling, my face twisted into a grin as the me in the glass pressed a finger to its lips. Then the water began to rise from the drains, first in the bathtub, then the sinks. Then the walls themselves began to bleed seawater. It stank of rot and salt and copper. My feet sloshed through ankle-deep liquid. From the corner of my eye, I saw them. Figures, transparent, children, parents, all standing half-submerged in the rising tide, staring at me with hollow seafoam eyes. Their mouths wide open but soundless, like they were screaming beneath the surface. The floorboards cracked. I tried to run, but the water pulled at me like hands. I fell, my mouth filled with salt water, and that voice returned. But this time, it was inside my skull. You came to the edge. Now go deeper. I sank, not through water, but through floor, down through a spiral of old wood and damp stone, into the belly of something ancient and wet. The house was alive. It hadn't been built on the beach. It had grown there. It feeds on people who come alone, the lost, the grieving, the curious. I'm writing this now with what little charge remains on my laptop. Maybe someone will find it. Maybe someone will understand what happened to me. Or maybe the house will use my words to lure the next one in. The walls are breathing again. The sea is whispering my name. I know what happens next. So will you.